Okay, we discussed about SSAS and SSRS in last sessions, and today, from today onwards, we are going to discuss about SSIS. Okay. Before going into SSIS, let's have a quick look about what MSBI will do and what is the part of SSIS, what is the job of SSIS in the whole MSBI set. Let me take a pen. So let's say you have data in different sources like 10 to 15 sources or sometimes hundreds of sources, and sometimes you'll have data in different formats too. For example, the first one is in Excel format, the second one is in Notepad, and the third one is in SQL Server, and the fourth one is in Teradata. The data may be in different formats. So your job, I mean, as part of an MSBI developer, what people expect from you is to build a solution which will be helpful to analyze the business. So this is the data you have in different formats and in different locations on different servers. So let's say I have a tool called XYZ which helps me to push the data into different sources. From different sources to one destination. If I have data in different databases and different sources, it is very difficult for me to analyze my business, like analyzing where it stands and what kind of steps I have to take to improve the business. So the best way is to consolidate and to move the data into one destination, all different formats into one format, one destination format, so that it will be easy for me to query this part. I can easily query this data warehouse. We call it as data warehouse. I can easily query this, and the advantage of having one single data warehouse rather than having data in different sources like this is I can query it easily and I can find out whatever data that I want to see, I wish to see. So SSIS will sit here. This is the job of SSIS. That means moving the data from one source to from many sources to one destination. That is the job of SSIS. This is the place where our SSIS sits in the Microsoft BI projects. Once the data is moved into the data warehouse, I have data in one database, one location. That is one good thing for me to analyze my database, my business. But the problem will be with the performance. As this is a data warehouse, you can expect some millions and millions of records in the data warehouse. And if I query the data, if I want to query the data to see any particular requirement, then it is going to take hell of time. That is the major disadvantage of query data warehouse. I'm telling this point, I'm highlighting the point that the performance issue will be there if and only the data volume is too high in the data warehouse. Let's say if you are getting 1 lakh records per day, and if you are maintaining 10 years information, the data volume will be very high. In that cases, you cannot query using the pointing to the database, OLTP database, which may lead to performance issues. So here the tool SSAS will come to convert the two-dimensional database into multi-dimensional database, or in other words, we call it as cube database, this one. And the tool which we are using to do the same is SSAS. Okay, and once it is converted into multi-dimensional, and the multi-dimensional database's response time will be very less. If you run the query, it will be retrieved in fraction of seconds. Why? Because the data is already aggregated and stored in the multi-dimensional databases. As we already discussed about all these things in last sessions. Now we will use the last tool of MSBI suite, that is SSRS, either pointing to cube database, or if the data is very less, then it will be directly pointing to data warehouse to pull the data, and this SSRS is used to generate the reports, which will be the UI for the end users. End users will see only the reports what you generated at the end of the BI project, and what you get from the users is raw data, and you convert it into reports with good look and feel. So it's, in other words, converting a project, BI project is nothing but converting raw data into valid information that clients are looking for. Among these three tools, the first and foremost, the most important is SSIS, which helps us in moving the data from from many sources to one destination. Okay. Now, before going to SSIS, there is one more concept which we need to look into, that is import and export wizard. Let me close this and let me start with import and export wizard. Before going to the import and export wizard, I am just reminding you guys that you have to make sure that the services is running for SSIS if you want to work on SSIS project. To check whether the service is running for SSIS, you have to go to all programs, Microsoft SQL 2008, whatever the version you installed, it will be like this. If it is 2008 R2, you will find Microsoft SQL Server 2008 R2. All programs, Microsoft SQL Server 2008. Under that you can find configuration tools in the SQL Server Configuration Manager. So if you open this, you can see all the services of different tools that are present in Microsoft BI, and you can see SQL Server, it is running, analysis services running, reporting services, and what is important for us is integration services, and even this one is running. Now we are good to start with SSIS projects. Before going to that, as said, let's discuss a bit about import and export wizard, which is used to move the data from one source to another destination. You can directly, or you can, by using the query or the complete table, you can copy from one source to another destination. Let's see how to use that and where you can find that option. And it is really very useful option. And the only disadvantage compared to data flow task of SSIS package is you cannot transform the data. You cannot transform the data as much as you can in SSIS data flow task. Let's see everything. First with let's start with import and export wizard, and we can jump into SSIS projects, and we can cover most of the control flow items and all the data flow items. So you can find import and export wizard in many locations. One among the many is under Microsoft SQL Server 2008. You can find this import and export wizard, or there is one more path where you can find it, that is after connecting to your databases. I will show you both. First, let me start here. So this is the import and export wizard. You can see welcome to SQL Server import and export wizard, and click on next to select the source from where you are gonna pull the data. Source is nothing but from where, what is the source that is giving you data that needs to be moved to the destination. Let's say I'll give the local host as server name. That means I have data in my local database, and if my data is present in some server, some other machine in the network, then I have to specify the server name. Server name is nothing but the computer name of the database, computer name where the database exists. So currently it is available in my local host, so I have given the local host. And here you can see different databases. AdventureWorks databases given by Microsoft. It's a free database. You can download it from internet and you can use it for your practice purpose. I've selected this. So the source is selected. That means from this database, I'm going to pull the data. And where I'm going to push, I have to select it in destination page. This is the destination page. You can push the data into any of the services like this, any of the provider, either for SQL Server, flat file destination, or Access, Microsoft Excel. There are so many options, or you can push the data into another SQL Server database in the same server. It depends on your wish, on your requirement. Rather than wish, it depends on your requirement. Let's say I selected flat file destination. and here you have to select what's the flat file to which you want to push the data. Which table, let's say we're going to push the data from dim product table, and I selected CSV file format. This is one of the delimited types of formats that are available. I have selected the file, and it is asking for whether it's a delimited or pixel length and so on. And this option is for select column names in the first row. Push the column, provide the column names in the first row in the destination file. Click on next. It is asking whether you want to select the table or you want to write your own query to pull the data from the source. Let me go with the table, and here it is asking what kind of delimited you want to apply for your destination file. Delimitation means how you want to separate two values. For example, row value, it is separating by new line. That means at the end of each row it will go to the next line, or else you can select any one, tab or vertical bar, but always better to select new line for the row so that the data will be easy to read. And column delimiter, how you want to separate each column. Let's say I want to go with vertical bar, and I click on next. Now it is saying next. Okay, this is the complete wizard output, whatever you have done using the pages, wizard pages till now. But one thing I missed here is I have not selected the source table. This is the source tables list that are available in the database, source database that we are pointing to. And what is our intention? Our intention is to move, let's say we thought of moving product, right? Let me select the product, and in edit mappings, these are the columns that we are gonna move. Okay, and there are some this one has very less data, so better I select fact internet sales table, which has huge number of columns, so that you can understand what kind of how the data is moved to the destination. So I've clicked on next. This page will say is whether you want to run the package immediately or save the package to either SQL Server or file system. It's not mandatory. If you want to run it immediately, you can just uncheck it, and if you want to save this for future use, whenever you want to run it again, if you need to run it again and again, in that case you can save this package so that you can make use of this package again and again. So right now I'm running it immediately. Next, here it will give the complete details whatever you have selected till now. What is the source you selected? The source for what I selected is localhost, and the source provider is SQL native client. And what's the task I'm asking the server to do? Copy rows from this table to this file. Okay, and new target table will be created. Package will not be saved, as I have unchecked that save option, and the package will be run immediately. So if we click on finish, then it started. It is throwing some error. Let's see what that error is. Now if you come to this error, okay, we got this error, and this error is because we are using 32-bit import and export wizard, but the system is 64-bit, and it supports only 64-bit import and export wizard. So what we have to do is we have to use 64-bit import and export wizard. Here you can see import and export data of 64-bit. So I will repeat the same steps. Local server, and I'm selecting the database as AdventureWorks DW. Next, and as we have done earlier, I will select the flat file destination, and I will create a new flat file called fact internet sales data, and I'm selecting a CSV file format. Now this is all we discussed earlier. Column names on the first row. Next, I'll go with the table. If you select this option, write a query to specify the data, then you will get this page extra. That is, you have to write the query select statement here. Now I'm selecting this first option, copy data from one or more tables or views. Click on next. Here you have to select the table. Let's say fact internet sales in our case, and the delimiter is vertical bar. So click on next, and if you want to see the mappings, how the columns are mapped, and you can use this, what is the column data type, nullable, and all the properties of the table. And go to next, and next, here you get the data. Just check whether now there is no table, no file there, so the new target table will be created. If the already file is there, then it will be appended to the existing file. Now if I click on finish, it will check, it will initialize the data flow task and connections, commands, and so on, and finally it will start loading the data into the destination file, whatever we have given. We have given this file and file name fact internet sales data in the desktop, and this is the path, and you can see the message saying that 60,398 rows transferred to the destination. Let me close this and see whether it is loaded properly or not as per the specifications given by us. So I said first row should be column names, it is there, and from second row onwards it is vertical bar delimited one. You can see vertical bars for every value, and at the end of the row it is moving to next line. That is what I specified as row delimiter while defining the package. So this is how you can move the data from one source to destination using import and export wizard. In the same way, you can move the data from this Excel sheet, this CSV file, to the database, the reverse process to what we have done till now. And now let's see where all this option will be available, where all you can use this import and export data option. First thing we have seen under SQL Server, here you have seen that option, and you will find the same option in the BIDS also, Business Intelligence Development Studio, which we are going to see in a couple of minutes, and also in SQL Server Management Studio. Let's see that I'm connecting to the database engine, and here you can see different databases available in the server. If I right click on any database, under task you can find two options, import data and export data. They split the same task into two, and if you select import data, that means I'm telling the server I want to import data to this particular database. So what will happen? The destination will be selected by default. For example, if I give the destination source as localhost and some database name, I have to give localhost, which is gonna take time. Okay, let me give localhost. It is pretty slow. I've given localhost, which means my local computer, and if I select any one database, now if you see the destination is by default selected. Why? Because I have selected this option, import data, on right clicking the database here. So I'm telling the server I want to import data into this particular database. That's why the destination is by default selected. Now I'm closing this part, and I'm right clicking, going to the task, and if I select export data, you can see the source will be selected. Why? Because I am telling the server I want to export data from this particular database. So the server will be selected by default. That's the only difference. Now let's see importing the data into the same database. For that I need a table. I have a table called fact internet sales, from where I pull the data and pushed into the destination. that is our CSV file. Now I'm taking the same create table syntax of the same, and I will create a new table with some other name so that I can make use of the new table. Underscore testing, and I'm removing all these constraints which may create problem for me whenever I try to load the data again and again. If I try to insert the same data again and again, I may face some problems because of these constraints and all. So I'm removing the constraints. This is done, and this is the table, and I've given the name fact internet sales underscore testing. Let me execute this. Now the table is ready. Now let's try importing the data. I'm going to the task. I'm going import data. So I'm giving localhost. Here I have to select the source. What is the source? Source for me here is the flat file system. That means I'm trying to import the data from the CSV file to which I exported data from my database table. Here the table name is, sorry, the text file here it is showing. Let me select CSV files, and if I go to, there are fact internet sales data. This is our table, and header row delimited, this is fine, and columns, column names in the first data row so that it will skip that part. These are all the columns, advanced and preview data. Here these two are important. Row delimiter is fine, that is next line, and column delimiter is vertical bar. So this is fine, the source is fine. The destination, what is the destination? This is the destination, AdventureWorks DW database. This is also fine, and it is saying whether you want to create a new destination table or you want to use an existing one. If you want, we created one table for this. So let's use the same fact internet sales testing. I selected the same, click on next. Next, run the package immediately, and now if I execute this, yeah, there is some issue. Let's see what that one is. Okay, there is nothing to worry about this issue. The issue is because the file is being used by some other source. I have not yet closed this part, so yeah, this is fine. Let me execute this again. Now you can see the rows are getting loaded into the table. So we have to double check the same whether it is loaded properly or not. So go to the database, select star from fact internet sales underscore testing. So if I click on F5, I can see the data. So the data is properly inserted into the table. Okay, this is how you can import the data from either another database or flat file system, flat file, or you have many options here, like you can point to another databases, another servers, flat files, Excel files, and so on. In the same way, you can export the data from one source to the another source, like SQL Server to Excel or flat files or some other database servers. So this is the advantage. I mean, using import and export wizard, you can easily move the data from source to destination. The only disadvantage is while moving the data, you cannot use transformations. You cannot transform the data. You can move the data from the source to destination as is. That is the major disadvantage of using import and export wizard. But for simple scenarios, like if you want to maintain a backup or if you want to copy the data from your production server to your development server, that means you are going to make a copy. You are not going to do any transformation while copying the data from production to development. In that case, it is better to go with import and export wizard, which is easy to implement. Let me tell you a scenario. Let's say you got an issue from users saying that the data is not proper. I mean, it is not showing properly for a particular page or particular report or particular screen. What you are going to do is to reproduce the same issue you have to copy, you need to have the copy of the production data in your development box, as you are not allowed to work on production environment. So you need to copy the data from production, and while copying, you're not going to apply any transformations. You're not going to do that. So in that case, you can use import and export wizard, which is very easy to implement, to import the data from your production to development. And once you move into the development, you will make the changes and you will test it, and if it looks fine, then you can push the same into the modified data into the production. So this is the advantage of, in these kind of scenarios, you can go with import and export wizard when you want to apply some transformations while moving, when you want to transform the data while moving from source to destination. In that case, you have to go with SSIS packages and data flow tasks. Okay, now let's start discussing about SSIS. Now let's see about SSIS projects. So before start working on SSIS projects, you have to know what is BIDS. In full, it is Business Intelligence Development Studio. BIDS is the environment where you will work on, where you will design, you will develop SSIS, SSAS, and SSRS projects. You can find the BIDS environment in all programs, Microsoft SQL Server 2008, and here you can see it is nothing but Visual Studio, but specially designed for, dedicated for Microsoft BI projects. So, and hence the name SQL Server Business Intelligence Development Studio. So this is how you have to navigate to the path where you can select the Business Intelligence Development Studio environment, where you can launch the environment. So this is SQL Server Business Intelligence Studio, and in short we call it as BIDS. Here you can see this is the start page where it will list all the projects what you have worked in this environment, in this computer. Now let's open a new project. How to open new SSIS project? For opening a new project, go to File, New, and select the project option here. Here you can see the business intelligence projects, and other projects it is empty now, and you can find the same whenever you install Visual Studio on .NET framework. You can see different projects like .NET related stuff, C# project, Windows applications, ASP.NET MVC applications, and so on. But I installed only SQL Server and Visual Studio BIDS environment, and hence I can see only Visual Studio installed templates for business intelligence projects. Here you can see the first two related to analysis services, and then as integration services, and finally you can see reporting services project templates. Now our sessions are for integration services, and hence I will take integration service project. Let me name it as SSIS project, and you can see the solution name is also changed to the name whatever I given, and where this solution will be stored, the project copy will be stored. It will be stored in this location. So now I clicked on OK, and it is launching the environment for developing SSIS projects. The core part of any SSIS project is package. The package is the most important and the core part of any SSIS project. This is the core component, I can say, and it is nothing but an program or executable program which maintains the business logic or whatever the users are expecting, what they want to be executed whenever I execute this package, and that information will be present in these packages. It maintains that information. Okay. In other words, we can call it as collection of tasks and precedence operators. What is task and what is precedence operator? We will see it in few minutes. And you can see this is the package. By default, one package is selected, created, and the extension of the packages is .dtsx, data transformation services files, which is in XML format. And you can see view code, everything will be maintained in the form of XML. Not only for SSIS projects, even for SSAS and SSRS, you can find everything in XML format. Now, let's see what are tasks. I told you like package is nothing but collection of tasks and precedence constraints. Let's see what is a task and what is a precedence constraint. Task is nothing but an individual unit of work. A package is collection of tasks which maintains the workflow, whereas task is individual unit of work. Let's say if I drag this is a task. This has its own functionality. When I configure it completely, then it will have some functionality and it will be executed whenever I execute the package. So this is a task, and even this is a task. All these things are called as tasks, which will have some functionality. Let me drag it here. So this is called a task. Now, what is precedence constraint? Precedence constraint will tell how the program, how the package should be executed, what the order of the task that needs to be executed. For example, if you see here, first it has to start from bulk insert task and then go to data flow task and then come back to execute SQL task. That is the starting and ending and the flow. The precedence constraints will say what should happen, where I have to go, where it has to be taken. The control should be taken once the task is completed. And it has constraints. Precedence will have constraints, and these constraints will tell what is the condition it has to check before going to the next task. Okay. It has three constraints. One is success, one is failure, and another one is completion. Success, nothing but whenever the parent, this package is completed successfully, the first package, then it will go to the next package. Sorry, I'm extremely sorry. Whenever the first task is completed, then completed successfully, I'm highlighting the word successfully, then only it will go to the next task. And this is successful, then it will go to the next task. That is the use of success constraint. Whereas if you select the failure, whenever this task fails, then only it will take you to the next task. It will be like this. On success, go to this task, but on failure, go to this particular task. And if this is successful, then go to this execute SQL task. Or if this is failed, go to this execute SQL task. I can configure it for failure. Okay, like this. So these precedent constraints will tell you what's the workflow, how it has to flow, from what is the starting point and when it has to go to the next which task, on success to which task, on failure which task, and so on. And there is one more constraint. These two, apart from these two, that is success and failure, you have one more thing, that is completion. The completion is the third one. This one will be taken the execution to the next task whenever the first task is completed. It won't bother whether it is successful or failure. Anything, the result is completed. So whenever it failed or whenever it's successful, it will take you to the data flow task 1 in this case. Now let's see what will happen. If this task is completed, it will go to bulk insert 1. If this task is failed, it will go to data flow task. If this task is completed or successful or failure, that means it is completed, so it will go to data flow task. So at any point of time after this task is either completed or successfully or failure is there, then it will go to either this plus this or this plus this in the case of failure. In the case of success, this plus this task. So this is the use of precedence constraints. What it is going to tell you is what should happen next. what is the order of execution. It is gonna talk about order of execution and what is the next tasks to be taken. In short, we can say it will tell the server how the package should react after each task is completed, either successfully or with failure, with error, I mean to say. Now, this is about precedence constraints. Here, this precedence constraints is not, the evaluation part. Evaluation means identifying, checking, the evaluating part has many options. One is constraint, that is hard-coded one, either success, failure, or completion. The other one is expression. Here, you can give some expression like by defining variables or some expression. 1 is equal to 1 is a valid true expression. It will be evaluated to true. So if I select this, always this one will be executed after this task. Why? Because 1 is equal to 1. Or you can give expression like 1 is equal to 0, which will be evaluated to false always. So this one will not happen. It will not be, this point will not be reached. Why? Because this expression will be always a negative one. And here you can see fx, that means there is some expression defined, and when the mouse is on, it will show you the expression. The expression in real time, it will be like the combination of variables. You can declare variables and you can make use of this. For example, user of country is equal to India. Okay, one second. Okay, variable is not found. I have not declared the variable, but just I'm telling you how to define an expression. We are going to see this again. We are going to revisit this part again, the expressions part. Now, this is an expression. If this user country, the variable, if I define any variable called your country, and if the value is India, then it will take you to this bulk insert task. So it will be evaluated to true. So it will take it to this task. Or you can go for both expression and constraint. Either this should be success and this expression should be true. In that case only it will go to the next task here, that is bulk insert task from here. And in the same way, you have one more option, evaluation option, operation, that is expression or constraint. If any one of these two is true, either it is success or 1 is equal to 0, then it will take you to the bulk insert task. Now, if you see this one has two ways, two paths. One is from bulk insert on failure, and another one is from this data flow task to execute SQL task. When there are two paths, two routes defined, then you can go with logical AND or logical OR. When you have more than one or two, if I define logical OR, either one is true, then it will be taken control to this particular task. Any one, it will check for any one to success. If you give AND, both should be evaluated true, then only it will be reached, or else it will not be reached. So this is the different options we have in precedence constraints, and this is about package, what is package and what is a task and what is the precedence constraint, and how can you define the constraint precedence, how can you provide the precedence between tasks. Now we discussed about variables here, but what are variables? Variables are nothing but the values of which will be changed during the execution. From the start, at the start of execution, the value will be something, and at the middle it may be changed to something else, and at the end it will be end up with something else. So how to define a variable, how to create a variable? So when you right click on an empty page, you can see the option variables. So, and if you click on it, the major part of this variables is scope and the data type. So this is the name of the variable, let's say country, and this is the package scope. That means this variable can be used anywhere in the package, and the data type is, let's say I'll go for string. Okay, Now I defined a variable, user defined variable called country, and the scope is package. Now if I select this data flow task and if I click on a new one, you can see the scope is data flow task. That means I can use the second variable for which I have not yet given the name, which is with the name variable, can be used only in the data flow task. The scope of that one is data flow task. If you want any variable of a particular task level scope, then select that and then click on the new variable. If you want to package level, select here and click on package level. So if you observe one thing, if I select this, I can see package level and the data flow level one. And if I select this, I can see execute SQL task level and the package level. At any point of time, the package level variables are visible, available. That means the package level variables can be used anywhere in the package. Now let me delete these variables which I don't want. I just want to demonstrate a simple example. I'm gonna go with country variable. So let me select here and delete this one too. Now I define a country level variable. Let's say I'm giving a value India to this. Now in this expression, if I want to add some valid expression here rather than 1 is equal to 0 or something like this, at the rate of sorry user in the sense it is user variable, user defined one, is equal to India. Now this expression validated successfully. That means this is a valid expression. And the expression evaluation operation given here is expression and constraint. So if this one is success and also this one is evaluated to true, then only it will reach the next level, that is next task, that is bulk insert task 1 in this case. So this is about the variables. The next thing that we have to look at is the containers. We have a concept called containers in SSIS, and let's see what it is. Containers are nothing but tasks. So this is a container, sequence container, for loop container, and for each loop container. The top three are the container task. Okay, task is nothing but control flow items. We'll come back to that, what is control flow and what is data flow, before going to that. What is a container? A container is nothing but which groups the task logically into units. So if anything that can group the task into one logical unit, then we call it as container. So by default, there will be task host container whenever you create a package, and all the tasks that you are dragging and dropping into the package will be assigned to the task host controller, task host container, whereas that one will not be visible. That is a default one, and these three are the visible containers. And I will give you a brief about these three containers here, and we are going to spend more time on this in coming sessions. So sequence container is used to sequence couple of tasks and arrange it as a logical unit. So for example, if I want to group some tasks which are related to one business and next sequence, you can sequence the same task in the sequence container. It will be executed in the sequence whatever we provided. And for loop container is just like a for loop in any programming language. What for loop will do? It will loop through the number of times. For example, if I give for int I is equal to 0, I less than or equal to 100, I plus plus. So it will loop through the functionality whatever I have written that many number of times. For example, if I have this for loop container here, and if I have execute SQL task, not the good one, let's say script task, and in the script task I have added a functionality like showing pop-up. This is number 1, this is number 2, something like that. So if I configure this one for 100 to loop 100 times, then every time whenever it loops, this task that is available in the container will be executed, will be triggered and executed. So if you want to execute any one set of task or any one task for n number of times, then you can go for loop container. And for each, what for each will do is it will loop through all the files or all the records. So for example, if you have a folder in which you don't know how many files are there, text files or any one kind of file, you can specify the folder name, folder path in the for loop container, and you can provide the file extension which you want to read. For example, if you provide a .txt extension and if you provide the folder name as some cricket analysis, then it will go into that folder and it will find out how many .txt files are there, and it will loop through every file and it will get the file into the package so that you can make use of the data for pushing into any one destination for file, or any one destination table or another file. It depends on the requirements. You can make use of the data by looping all the same kind of files that are present in the folder. In the same way, you can loop through a data set, table, or record sets, and so on. So basically, for each loop, you don't specify how many, you don't limit how many times it has to loop. It will find out and it will loop the number of times depends on the number of files or records present in the enumerator set. So this is about tasks and container tasks that are present in the control flow items. The control flow is nothing but the control flow talks about the workflow, how the package should be executed, what is the order it should be executed, and what are the tasks that are available. Whereas one among these control flow tasks is data flow task. This data flow task will tell you from where this is the source to which destination you want to move the data. Let's say this is your destination, and what transformation you want to do in the middle. While moving the data from source to destination, you can use this transformation and you can push it into the destination. So this data flow talks about how you want to move the data, what transformation you want to apply while moving the data from source to destination. Whereas the control flow will talks about the business logic, how your business logic requirement is and what you have implemented and how you want to execute. Okay, what is the flow of the execution? It maintains the workflow on business logic. Okay, now this is about data flow and different containers and the tasks. Now there is one more option, that is connection managers. These connection managers are very useful mainly for data flow tasks. Mainly, I'm just saying mainly, and even you use the connection managers in control flow tasks also. Connection manager is nothing but the pointer to the source or destination file or destination connection. For example, if I want to pull the data from an let me delete all the things. Let's say I'm gonna take bulk insert. If you take the bulk insert task, this one will do, it will pull, what it will do is it pulls the data from a file and push it into a table. Now for this I need a connection to tell where the file is, from where I'm gonna get the data. Just like in import and export wizard, we have seen the source and the destination. So we created we set the path of the destination file path, and we set the source also in the import and export wizard. In the same way, we need to have the connection which says where the file or where the source and where the destination is. Now if I select the browser option, if I select the fact internet sales data, this is the file from where I'm getting the data. Now the file, the connection manager is set. You can see one connection manager is created with the same name whatever we have given. Okay, fact internet sales data dot CSV. Connection managers are nothing but the pointers to the source and destination, where it is, where the database or where the file is present. And Now let's see a couple of things about beats before going to that. Before going to the beats, let's see a couple of things we need to know, that is data sources and data source views. Okay, this is data sources. Data source is nothing but the physical connection between the package and the databases. We have these data sources in all the three tools of MSBI, that is SSIS, SSAS and SSRS. Let's say I want to set a connection which I'm going to frequently use in my package, that is wanting to let's say the database AdventureWorks DW. So now this is to test it whether it say properties we have given is correct or not. Well, now I click on OK. Next, now a data source is created, and this data source you can use it in many places again and again. This is called a shared data source, which will be created once and you can use it in many places. The second thing is data source view, which will act as a filter. If I have some thousands of tables in my data source, I don't want to expose all the 1,000 tables, or I don't want all the 1,000 tables for my SSIS package or for my meeting my requirements. So in that case, what I can do is I can filter the tables whatever I want. Fact internet sales I need, and let's say I want the related tables of the fact internet sales, and if I don't want this table, I can push it back always. Click on next and finish. What it will do is it will act as a layer between the package and the data source. It won't allow to expose all the tables that are present in the source, and you can see whatever the tables you have selected, only the tables will be listed here. So this is about data sources and the data source views. Now let's see a simple example of creating the package and executing the package. Okay, let me take the package here. Let me start with a simple example by taking any one task. Let's say I will take the task execute process task. So execute process task, generally it will help us in triggering the processes. For example, if you go to the run command, what you do, if you give notepad, it will open notepad, right? And in the same way, if you give calcs, it will open calculator. Now let's see how to, this is a process, how to open these processes using SSIS. So I've dragged this, I'm editing. This is called as task editor, where you can configure all the properties related to the particular task, whatever you have selected here. Okay. Now under processes, under executable, I'm giving notepad.exe. This is an exe file which will open the notepad. Okay. Now if I execute this, executing the package is nothing but triggering it. On right clicking of the package, click on execute, or simply click this button. Now you can see when the package is started executing, the notepad is open. I can type whatever you want. I am just testing a execute process task. Once it is done, save it on desktop with the name that you want, test. Save, and the package is closed. Package is completed successfully. The green means it is completed successfully, red means there is some failure, and yellow means it is still executing. Now let me stop it, and I'm going to add one more process task. So I'm giving precedence constraint on success to the next task. I'm configuring calculator for this task, calc.exe. Now let's see how it's gonna happen. Executed it, the notepad is open, I closed it, and immediately the calculator is open. So this is how you can make use of execute process type. This is just an example to show how the package will be triggered. You can trigger it either here by right clicking and execute, or simply by clicking this start debugging part. Now there is one important thing which we have to cover before jumping into the advanced concepts, that is the expressions page. What this expressions page will do is it will give us power to modify the property of any task runtime. This one has so many properties. Like you can see, one of the properties which we have used now is executable, and I set it to notepad.exe, and these expressions will help us to change the executable or whatever may be the property runtime. Whenever it start executing, that time it will allow us to change the value. Let's see a simple example how to do that. I'm going to the variables, I'm defining the variable, I'm renaming it to executable item, and I'm defining it as cals.exe. Okay, and I'm using that variable in these expressions. So under the property executable, so I'm changing the executable property runtime. I'm changing the value with whatever the value that is present in the X item. You can see this is how a variable will be used: at the rate, in brackets, square brackets, user, colon, colon, the variable name. Now what will happen is, when the package start executing, it will replace the executable property value from notepad.exe to cals.exe, whatever we have given. So what should happen? It has to open calculator for both the process tasks rather than opening notepad. Oops, there is some problem. Let me restart it. It's problem with the system. So first time the calculator is open, I clicked on OK. Again, for the second task, the calculator is open. Actually, even though I defined a notepad as executable one, but I have overridden it at the time of execution using the property called expressions, which we can change the values at the runtime. Okay, here you can see the same collection of expressions. The evaluation result of each expression is assigned to a property and replaces the value of the property. Okay, this is how you can create. And one more thing, you have to be very careful. I mean, whenever you're working on packages, name it properly. Open calculator, so that the other people who is going to work will have clear picture by seeing the names of the task. So click here, open calculator, calculator 2. So something like this. And there is one more option called annotation. You can add annotation. That means some description, some information about this package, what this package is going to do. This package is useful to open calculator and to calculate something. Let's say some, and control enter will take you to the next line. Task used, and control enter, last modified, created. So whatever information you want to use, you can write that information. It is like a label or something which will help us to give the description about this package. So that is an useful option. Whenever you define a package, it's always better to give annotation, what the package will do and what it is useful for. Now let's see a couple of things related to Business Intelligence Development Studio. The one you're seeing on the right hand side is Solution Explorer, where you will have all the information related to the project. So you can see you have different folders, data sources, data source views, the SSIS packages, and miscellaneous. So data sources, as you know, that one will have physical connection between the package and the database or any source connection. And data source views will act as a filter. And SSIS packages, you know, it's a program which will have the business requirement, business logic. And SSIS packages will have extension. All the files like the .ds files will be under the data sources folder. .dsv files will be under data source views folder, and .dtxs files will be under SSIS packages, whereas all the other extensions will be under miscellaneous. For example, if you want to ship project documents with the solution, then you can add it to miscellaneous part. So this is about Solution Explorer. Now, if you see on the left hand side, it is a toolbox item. This is the toolbox, different tools that are available. That's different tasks that are available for this SSIS control flow task. And this is not limited. You can always add or remove. For example, if you're not going to use a couple of tasks from this, and why you need to have in your toolbox, you can go to choose options, and it will open the window where you can choose the different options like which one to select and which one to deselect. It is going to take time. So here you can see this is the SSIS data flow task and control flow task that are available currently. And if you don't want to use this ActiveX control, you can uncheck this. And you can add new .NET components and you can give access. You can show that one in the control flow task and the toolbox. So this is a feature which will help. This is the way you can add third-party tasks also. There will be so many third-party tasks available in internet. You can download one and you can add it if you want your task list. At which once you add, you can make use of it in your SSIS packages. Okay, this is about toolbox, and the quite common one, the other one is properties window. Whatever you select, you will have properties related to that particular selection. If I select on the package, I have package related properties. If I select on this, there is a text. And if you select on this task, you can see this task of open calculator task related stuff. And I have only three here, three different tasks. One is package and two tasks. So whatever I want to see, I can select that. I can see the properties and I can make changes to the properties. And if you want to group the data and group couple of tasks, then select those two tasks and set it in a group, and you can name the group. The advantage of this one is if you have a large number of tasks in your control flow, then you can group it and you can minimize it. So you can give proper name, the calcs related calcs task. So you'll come to know, okay, this particular group is having calculator related tasks. So this is one useful option to have. And if you don't want any task to be executed, right click and simply disable it. And whenever you want, you can enable it back. So this is whenever you want to disable any particular task functionality, then you can make use of this part. And this is the data flow page. Whenever you add a data flow task here in the control flow, then you can see this one enabled. And if you have more than one data flow task, then you can select here to which data flow task you want to add functionality. Okay, if I drag and drop this, then this is of data flow task first one, and this is the other data flow task. So I can separate and I can have it for whatever data flow task I want to define particular functionality, I can have that. And if I double click on this, it will take me to the data flow task of that particular data flow. Here and this way. So, and event handlers, if you want to have some event, for example, on error of any package, if you want to have any functionality, anything you want to execute after getting this error on the package, or post execute, or post validating the package, or pre-execute, or on progress of the package, if you want something to happen, some functionality should to be executed, in that case you can go with event handlers, and you can have it for executables also, whatever the executables. I have for 2 data flow tasks and 1 open calculator and another open calculator. There are 4 tasks in my package. Okay. And now this package explorer will help you to explore what are all the different things defined. These are the system variables, and you can see the user variable highlighted in different color, and these are the executables that are present, and if there is any connection managers, you can see it here. Okay, and if you define any log, you can see it here, and these are the constraints. I have given constraints only between these two, and you can see this is a success related constraint. Once the first one is success, then it will go to the next one, and I can edit it here, and I can change it to failure or whatever I want, and you can see that one is reflected here. And the execution result will show you what's the last execution and when it's happened, what happened, and what's the reason. I mean, what the execution details, what happened in the last execution, and so on. This is different options available, different pages or tabs available in the Business Intelligence Development Studio when you load SSIS packages, SSIS projects. Now let's start seeing a couple of tasks, and we can close this session after discussing a couple of tasks, and we can start the remaining. We can have a discussion about remaining tasks in next session. So let's start with the ActiveX script task. This is mainly for backward compatibility. That means if you are migrating DTS package of version 2000, then it need to support that package. You need to migrate, and you need to have a required one. There it was a script task, and to make it work in 2008, you need this ActiveX script task. And if you don't have any DTS migrations, like DTS 2000 version migrating to current one, 2008 or 2008 R2, if you don't have anything like that yet, then you can ignore this part. ActiveX script task. Why? Because it is not that much comparable, and we have better script tasks available in this one. Here, using the script task, we can configure to any language and JavaScript or VB script, and give them script, whatever the script you want to execute or whatever the function, and give the starting point. What is the entry method? So if you're not going to use, to execute the same ActiveX control, ActiveX script task, you need to have SQL Server 2000 related runtime and so on. It's it's better not to touch this if you are not gonna work on any migration task. Now, this one is the least important one in 2008, and let's see. I'm repeating, unless you are migrating tasks of DTS 2000 version and so on. Let's see the script task. Using the script task, you can write any .NET Core or whatever you want. .NET, either Visual Studio C#.NET or Visual Basic 2008. So the next one is script task. This is the most powerful one, and we have completed one complete project using script task. I'm gonna give you that example too. You can use either C#.NET language or VB.NET language. Okay, and these there are two options. One is read-only variables and read-write variables. The read-only variables, if I pass any variable, then I can make use of the variable in the script. And if I pass the same variable in read write variables, then I can write some new value back to the same variable. For example, let me show you an example. Let's say this is my variable and I am selecting in read only variables. In the script, I can use that variable anywhere. I can make use of the value that is present in the variable, but I cannot write back to this variable in the script. Apologies, actually there was some problem with the internet and I'm repeating the same. So the next and the most important thing, task, one of the most important tasks is script task. Script task allows you to write the code in VB.NET and C#.NET. Okay, and this one will say read only variables, and the second one is write only variables. And I'm gonna show you the difference between read only and write only. Read write variables. See, first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select one variable name, whatever I have defined there. I have only one variable, that is execute item. Let me create one more variable before going to this task. Let's say I'm gonna add country name, country, and I'm giving string, and the value is India. Now in the script task, again in the script task, I'm gonna select the user variable country under read only variables. Now I have to use this option edit script to edit the script. If I want to make changes to the script, or if I want to add something to the script, then I have to edit the script, go to the main part. Here I'm going to make use of the variable whatever I have given, like I'm going to show a pop-up message, system dot windows dot forms dot, this is .NET code, and you should be aware of .NET to work on this script task. That .NET is very important for this script task. Message box dot show is a function which shows the message whatever we want to show. Country name is, I'm getting the value from DTS, I mean the variable. Okay, for that I have to write DTS dot variables of whatever the variable, that is user : country dot value dot toString. So what this one will do is, this one will show country name is plus DTS variable, whatever the variable value that I'm passing. I have passed India there. Okay, and now I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna write a value back to this country variable. Instead of this, I'm gonna write Pakistan, and again I'm gonna show the same. So if it is read and write variable, then it will write the new value to this and it will show the new value to this one. Let's see what will happen if I execute now. Before closing the script, you have to build it, or else the changes whatever you have done will not be updated. Here you can see the option build underscore. Under that you can see build the script name. Now it is build is succeeded, you can see it here. And now if I can close this and let me execute the same. So if I execute this, first it is showing country name is India, and I am assigning fresh value, that is Pakistan, to the same one, and you can see the Pakistan. Okay, and this is how you can make use of the variables. You can use the variables in the script task. Okay, and read only variables and even read write variables. If you select this, you can write back the data to the variable. So that is the advantage of having this read write variables. You can see read variables which will help in read the data, whereas write variables you can write the fresh value which will be pulled back. Okay, now this is about the script task. This is one of the simplest use of script task. You can just show the pop-ups and you can do whatever you want to do using .NET code. Even you can use ADO.ADOMD code, and you can give reference to analysis services, DLLs, and many other DLLs. And you can create SSIS packages, SSIS cubes and SSIS cubes processing task. You can do all those things in the script task. What you have to do is you have to add the reference to the particular DLL, and you have to use this code like use system.analysis services, which will give full access, full control to make the connection to the analysis services and create a cube or create a dimension or create a measure group using the .NET code. That is the most powerful feature we have to work on SSAS cubes from using .NET code. Okay, this is most powerful one, script task, using which you can, for example, there will be some cases in which all the control flow task also will not be, the requirement cannot be achieved by using any of the tasks here. So in that case, you have to write some code in .NET language or any other language. So that you have to use you have to take the help of programming language like .NET to achieve the requirement. Like for example, you have to loop through all the records. While looping through, you have to check some condition and modify the value and then assign it back to the data set and so on. In that cases, this SSIS script task will be very helpful one. And this is about script task. What I have demonstrated is a simple example, and you can do a lot with script task. If you are good in .NET, you can play with it. Okay, this is about script task. And let's see, we have seen about ActiveX script task, what it is, and mainly ActiveX script task is for backward compatibility. Okay, so this is about script task and ActiveX script task. And this is the end of today's session, and we are going to discuss about analysis service execute DDL task with examples tomorrow, and in next session, and analysis services processing task, bulk insert task, data flow task, and we are gonna see the task like execute SQL task, very powerful one, and execute package process. Let's discuss about 5 to 10 per session with lot of examples. Okay, SSIS script task I have given very simple example. Why? Because you are not aware of .NET, so it will unnecessarily create lot of confusion. Okay, and thank you, and catch you in next session.